In this video, guys, we are going to be learning how to draft and cut a 4-piece skirt. A 4-piece skirt simply means a 4-panel skirt. Just like we have the 6-piece skirt, we also have the 4-piece skirt. Okay, so in this tutorial you are going to be learning how to draft and cut it out. So if this is what you are interested in learning, please keep on watching. Grab your cup of coffee, sit back, relax, and let's get started. Okay, now you can see I have my brown paper on top the table. If I should start cutting it out with my fabric, you might not clearly see what I'm going to be outlining. That's why I've decided to cut it out on a brown pattern so that you can clearly see what I am doing. So the measurements we are going to be needing are the waist measurements, 48 inches for this client, and then the round hip measurement is 56 inches. So you can see this is for a plus size. You know, I like working with a plus size so that if you're working with a small size, you can easily alterate that. Okay, and then the skirt length is 44 inches. Now the waist measurement is going to be divided by 4, and that gives us 12 inches. The round hip we divide by 4 and it gives 14 inches. Now guys, for you to draft out a 4-piece skirt, you need to mark out extra 10 inches. Okay, and from the center fold you are going to come in by 10 inches all the way from the waistline down to the length of the skirt. So you can see that I've marked that out. Now after that, from the upper part of my paper, I'm going to mark down to 1 inch. This 1 inch is going to serve as my waistline, or you can easily call that the starting line. So that starting line is going to be my waist points. Now I'm going to place my tape on these waist points and mark down vertically the hip points. Okay, so for this client I'm using 9 inches. You can make use of 8 inches, it depends on the size of the client. And then from the waist to the knee I have 19 inches there. Now from the waist to the length of my skirts, I'm going to be making use of 45 inches. Okay, remember it is 44 inches, but just to be on a safer side, I'm cutting this out with a lace. I'm going to make it 45 inches because you know we are not going to be turning the hemline. Okay, so I'm going to mark down 45 inches and that would be my length of skirt. Now guys, if you notice my voice keeps changing in this video, it is what it is. I am having a cold, so please pardon me. I'm going to go ahead and draw my lines across. So I have the hip points, I have the knee points, and then I have the length of my skirts. So now I'll move over to the starting point again, which is the waistline, and then I'm going to divide my waist circumference by 4, which is what I have written down on the paper. So my waist divided by 4 is 12 inches. I'm going to mark it starting from the center fold. Okay, now the center fold is on this 10 inches mark. I hope you guys understand. So that is where my markings is going to be starting from. So I'm going to divide my waists by 4 and mark it down. Now because I'm working with a lace, I'm not going to use any form of dart allowance, okay, because I don't like adding darts on my lace. I'll move over to the hip, divide my hip circumference by 4 and then mark it down, and then I'll move over to the knee points. But before that, let me label all my points. So you see I have the knee, the hip, and the waist. So now on the knee points, I'm going to go ahead and remove 2 inches from the hip circumference divided by 4. So right there I'll mark 12 inches. Okay, and then I'll go ahead and connect from the waist to the hip, and then from the hip down to the knee points. As you can see, I am done connecting the points together. Now I'll be moving over to the down part of my skirt, which is the length. Now whatever you have on the length depends on how wide you want the down part to look, which is the fullness you want for your skirt. Okay, And to determine that, you're going to be using whatever you have on the knee. Remember, for the knee we have 12 inches, so I'll be adding up 5 inches extra to this 12 inches, which makes it 17 inches, and I'm going to mark it out. Now remember, like I said, this depends on how full you want the dampers to look. You can use 10 inches, you can make use of 8 inches. It all depends on the fullness that you want for the dampers. Okay, so after that I went ahead to connect from the knee down to the hemline. Now after this, we are going to move over to the center front of our skirts. So remember, before we started drafting out the shape of our skirt, we left about 10 inches extra, so I went ahead to draw it across, and I'm going to connect back to the knee point just like this. Okay, so guys, now you can see I have the front panel of my 4 pieces skirts. I'm now going to go ahead and add up 1/2 inch seam allowance around the center front just like this. Okay, so you can see I've labeled the center fronts. Now I'm going to add up 1/2 inch seam allowance, because you know that if I want to cut this out on fabric, I'm going to place it on folds. And placing it on fold means I'm going to be having 2 pieces for my front panel. I hope you guys understand. So guys, you know I also need my side seam allowance, right? But I'm not going to be adding it up on this pattern. So what I just added up was my center front seam allowance, and that is just 1/2 inch. So please sit back, relax, and after cutting this out, you know that this is just the front panel. Also, I will equally be cutting out the back panel on my fabric, because I don't want to waste much of my pattern paper. You can see that this is big enough. Like, I literally joined almost 2 patterns to get this. Okay, so I am cutting this out, and you guys, at this point, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please hit on the subscribe button, and if you like this tutorial, please endeavor to give it a thumbs up. That is the only way you could support the growth of this channel and help the algorithm to grow. Okay, so that YouTube will be able to push it out there for people to see it. All right, and if you haven't turned on your post notification, please hit on the bell button right there, so that you get notified for whenever I upload a new video. So guys, as you can see, I am done cutting it out, so I will bring in my fabric. I'm only trying to tell you guys that you are supposed to add up your 2 inches seam allowance, or whatever seam allowance you want for the side. You're supposed to add it up, but for this particular tutorial I didn't add mine on the pattern. Okay, so let me fold my lace fabric which I'll be using. Can you see that this lace is so beautiful? The color is giving. Like, I love the floral look. I love equally the transparent look of this lace. So I'll be folding my lace, and after folding I'll bring in my pattern. Here is my pattern, and you can see the hem of my pattern paper is touching the hemline of my lace fabric. And first of all, what I'm going to do is go ahead and add up my 2 inches side seam allowance. Remember, the only thing that is remaining here is to add up my side seam allowance. I've added my center seam allowance. Okay, now after adding it up, I'm going to connect them together and equally add up my seam allowance for the upper part, which I'm going to use to join to the half scale of this gown. You guys, if you don't know, what I'm making is actually a gown, but I'm just showing you how to cut out the down parts. Okay, so at this point I just noticed that the lace was shifting to and fro while I was trying to connect my seam allowances. So I went ahead to use my pins to hold it down. Emphasis on using your pins, you guys. Whether you are a professional or you are a beginner, please endeavor to make use of your pins. Now after this, I went ahead to add up my 1/2 inch for joining to the upper part, which is the half scale. And you guys, I'll go ahead and cut it out. Okay, So guys, as you can see, I am done cutting out the front pieces. So I'll go ahead and remove all the pins on the pattern and then remove the pattern paper. After removing the pattern paper, I'm going to notch the center fronts, okay, so that we note that as the center fronts. So guys, it is time for us to cut out the back panel. Now I've folded my fabric into two again and placed in my pattern. I'm going to mark out my 2 inches side seam allowance from the waistline down to the hemline. After marking it out, I'll go ahead and connect the points together. And after connecting the points together, I will go ahead and add up 1/2 inch to the upper parts. Now this 1/2 inch, I'll be using it to join to the upper part of my gown. Like I said previously, I'm making a gown, but I'm just showing you how to cut out the damp part, right? Now after this, I will equally go ahead and outline all the important lines, the hip points, the knee points, and then the waist points, so that we'll be able to add up the zipper allowance. Okay, so guys, now that I'm done marking out the points, to add up my zipper allowance, I'm going to follow the original center front to do that. You know, initially we added 1/2 inch for joining the 2 panel or the fronts together, okay? So I'm going to neglect that, place my tape on the original center front line, and then add up my zipper allowance for the back. So on the waistline, I added 1.5 inches. On the hip, I added 2 inches, and on the knee, I added 1.5 inches. So I would go ahead and connect it just like you can see me doing like this. You can see the way I blend it up with the train. Okay, so that is how to add up your zip allowance for your 4-piece skirts. It is actually very simple. So I'll connect it properly well and cut it out. So guys, as you can see, I am done with cutting of the back panel, and yeah, this is how to cut out your 4-panel skirt or your 4-piece skirt. You can see it is actually very simple, and if you find value in this tutorial, please do not forget to give it a thumbs up. Also share this video so that more people can get to see it. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done yet, and please turn on your post notification so that you get notified for whenever I upload a new video. I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.